Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Chrome. I'm going to be tiering the Ironclad cards in Slay the Spire 2. So we got S tier down to D tier, where S tier is the best, D tier is the bottom. And we have our cards laid out here from common to uncommon to rare. So it's in that order, and it's also in the order of the compendium. So yeah, this is coming from my experience playing Slay the Spire over 100 hours and making it through all the ascensions with the Ironclad. So without further ado, let's go. Let's start out with Strike. And you start out with this card. It's kind of trusty, old faithful, but this has to go to D tier. Any card that you get after Strike is pretty much better than Strike. And this is one of your favorite removes when you get to a shop. So for that reason, it has to go in D tier. Next up is Bash. And Bash is interesting because you start out with this card, but different than Strike, you get double utility out of this card. And so for that reason, it's got to go into C tier because Vulnerable as a status effect on your enemies is super helpful and one of the reasons why you can end fights so quickly with the Ironclad. Next up is Defend. And Defend, I would say it's better than Strike, but it also is going to go into D tier. This is another one of your favorite removes later on. Or with the Ironclad, you might not even feel the need to remove because you can second wind your defense away and make your deck stronger that way. So the other thing is I'm not going to be ordering them within the tier. It's just going to be where they land kind of in the order that we're doing this. Anger. Anger is a 0 cost damage card, and this is pretty good early on. It's kind of a card that, you're not ecstatic to see, I would say, but it is a card that definitely makes you stronger quickly. And you don't have many 0 cost cards that show up for the Ironclad early, so I think that this gives you a pretty good value for it when you get it. You're happy to kind of pick one of these up. Also, the other thing is I'm going to be accounting the upgraded version of these cards into where they land. This doesn't have the upgraded versions of the cards, so we're just going to be considering that when we're placing them here. And I think even with all things considered, this is where these things land. Now, Body Slam, I think Body Slam is really good also. It's kind of along the same level, right? Because Body Slam also becomes a 0 cost. And depending on your deck, just like this, Body Slam could be very good. If you generate a lot of block and you're having trouble turning that into damage, Body Slam helps with that. I would say Body Slam over Anger, I take generally. And especially later on, Body Slam becomes very good where you're needing to block every turn for like 40. So then your Body Slams over the course of the run become even better. I'm like considering this. Maybe we'll come back to it. Because I could see it going into A tier. Let's go to Breakthrough. Breakthrough is another one of these cards that's kind of, you see it early, and I think it does a good job of giving you a multi attack. You need some kind of way to deal with multiple enemies, and Breakthrough helps you with that if you haven't found another way to do that. So I think Breakthrough, let's put it in C tier for now. Headbutt, I'm going to put into A tier. Headbutt is one of these cards that is so versatile that you can really incorporate into pretty much any deck that you're building. You're happy to see a headbutt. You're mostly happy to take a headbutt. I would say if you don't have one in your deck, maybe 80% of the time you see a headbutt, you should probably add it. I just think it works with a lot of things. Maybe you weren't able to apply vulnerable in the turn that you drew bash, so you want to play headbutt, you want to do some damage, defeat a smaller enemy, and then get that bash next turn to deal with the tougher enemy. Headbutt just, again, allows you to do a lot of things. So next up is Iron Wave. Iron Wave does both of these things simultaneously, and for that reason, it's going to go into C tier. Because generally, I think a good rule to follow is the more your card kind of does, the more good it is in several different situations. And that's what you want. You want a deck that's pretty consistently doing what you need it to do. And so Iron Wave is not bad on a turn where you need to deal damage, and it's not bad on a turn that you just need to block. So for that reason, it's making your deck more consistent. It's providing value. Whereas a defend, when you draw it on a turn where you just need to do damage, just feels bad. Molten Fist is interesting, but I'm gonna put Molten Fist in D tier. Molten Fist is highly situational. There are instances where you want Molten Fist, and there's gonna be situations where you want every single card that's on this list. Slay the Spire is a very kind of conditional game where the conditions of your current run, what cards you currently have, what cards you think you're going to run into, what relics you currently have, all change what cards are going to be good for your particular run. But again, I think when I'm looking at consistently what card is going to benefit you, Molten Fist is at the bottom of these other cards that could possibly show up in your card reward screen. Pommel Strike is incredible. I'm leaning towards A tier. I could see where you'd put Pommel Strike into S tier. I think Pommel Strike is very good. It deals damage, it draws a card. That one card that you draw because of Pommel Strike might save you, might save the run. It allows you to... Card draw in this game is so powerful because it gives you options. Headbutt gives you options. It doesn't say what card you put from your discard pile on top of your pile. You get to choose it. Pommel Strike gives you another card so you can choose how your turn goes. So for that reason, Pommel Strike is definitely A tier. Next, Setup Strike. Very conditional again. If I see this card, generally I'm skipping. So for that reason, I'm going to put it into D tier. Again, pretty good in certain conditions. Maybe you gotta have Hellraiser things going on, and then maybe you really want to see this card. But for the most part, I'm skipping this. Sword Boomerang is very interesting. I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think the reason I like Sword Boomerang is because it has the potential for strength scaling, and Ironclad likes to strength scale. That's one of the kind of archetypes, or it's a very common thing that Ironclad does. So after an Inflame, this card deals 15 damage, and that's pretty good. So that's just an example where here you're dealing 15 damage. If you had an Inflame on Pommel Strike, you're dealing 11. So you see the difference between this. And Ironclad has access to that, has access to Vulnerable, where again, this is taking effect. So I think Sword Boomerang is B tier. Next up is Thunderclap. Thunderclap has, again, is kind of like Bash, but it goes to several enemies, and for that reason, I think it's B tier. It goes to multiple enemies, so it's a way to deal with multiple enemies, a lot like Breakthrough. It's one of these early multiple enemy cards that you probably want to take. And then it's dealing vulnerable, which is setting you up for a whirlwind or setting you up for a breakthrough, or possibly going into some kind of vulnerable. Either you keep vulnerable on an enemy for longer because then it stacks with bash, or you have draw with vulnerable, which is a common thing. So I'm a fan of Thunderclap. Twin Strike, I think, is another one of these because it works like Sword Boomerang, where it scales with strength. And it's a pretty good damage card. Early on in your run, I tend to find that you want to take some attack cards. You want to take some cards that can end fights quickly. Cards that are better than your regular strikes in order to do damage. And Twin Strike does that. If I see this, I'm picking it. So it's pretty consistent. I like it. B tier. Maybe later on it loses value, but early on this is providing a lot of value. Cinder. Cinder is interesting because Cinder is a lot of damage. So it's doing these things that I'm saying here. But after a while, Cinder becomes almost like a curse card. I've found later in my run, Cinder becomes useless. A lot of times when you have a card that exhausts, the most value you get out of the card is the first time you play it, and then it loses its value over time. At least that's how I'm seeing that turn out in my playthroughs, where it's like I might have Cinder go one time, and then now I want to Burning Pact my Cinder away because it got rid of one strike, let's say, or one defend, and now my deck is considerably better, more consistent because of that one Cinder. And then now, the more that Cinder stays in my deck, it possibly takes out a card that I really want to stay there, like Pommel Strike. So for that, Cinder is going to go into C tier. Really good. It's a really good card. A lot of these cards can be really good, and like I'm saying, Cinder is actually early on something that's very good because you need that damage. You need 17 damage to deal with Birdanis or some kind of elite that you're facing, and you need to get rid of it quickly. Cinder is going to help you do that. But like I said, later on in your run, you find that Cinder is holding you back a little bit. So let's go to Perfected Strike. Perfected Strike is a lot like Cinder, I'd say. Early on, you need that damage. Later on, you're not happy about having Perfected Strike in your deck. You've gotten rid of some of your strikes, and now Perfected Strike really isn't doing anything. But early on, you're happy to take this because you need that damage to get to finish that elite fight and to get that relic and get that rare card possibly out of an elite. So Perfected Strike, I do take it. I do take this, and I take this sometimes. So, but I would rather see these cards. Bloodletting. Bloodletting has to be our first S tier. Bloodletting is so consistent with what it allows you to do. You don't have to play it, right? But when you play it, it allows you to scale fast depending on what your deck looks like. But it's consistently giving you energy at the cost of 3 HP, which when you're Ironclad, you're okay to take 3 HP because you heal 6 at the end thanks to that Burning Blood relic. So you're happy to trade that if it means that you're going to be able to end the fight quicker or scale faster and therefore prevent a lot of damage. Bloodletting prevents so much damage from coming your way that it is definitely an S tier card. You know, if you bloodlet and then you play something like a shrug, or you're able to play a body slam, let's say that's unupgraded, it's allowing you to save so much health at the cost of 3. I love bloodletting. I pretty much take it all the time. That I see it, I at least have one in all of my decks. Next up is Armaments. Armaments is very good. Sometimes you're gonna get to a campfire and you don't have a lot of upgrades, and you're like, hey, let me take Armaments because Armaments is going to upgrade all of my cards on the turn that I draw it. It's providing a lot of value for as the fight keeps going on and on. So Armaments is a good elite card. Um, yeah, Armaments is a good card if you find yourself being behind. So I want it to be somewhere between C and D tier. I think I'm gonna put it in very low C tier because you want this card to be upgraded. If all of your deck hasn't been upgraded for some reason, you just haven't been able to do that, then Armaments comes in for you. You generally don't mind seeing it maybe early, but I'm not taking it as much as these other cards. Havoc. Havoc is Havoc is a good card. It's very situational though, and for that reason, I'm gonna put it in D tier. Um, Upgraded Havoc, I like, and I'm more likely to take. Unupgraded Havoc, I pretty much never take it. So again, because it's situational, sometimes your deck, you like the cards in your deck, like you know how to exhaust down. By the time you draw this, maybe you don't want to exhaust anymore. You just run into things with this. You can't have cards that like play cards automatically from your deck because now Havoc triggers and you got rid of what your deck is built around. Havoc is just, it has possibility for a lot of downsides. Next up is Shrug. And Shrug is one of my favorite cards, and I'm gonna put it in A tier. I think Shrug is one of the most like positive contributions that you can add to your deck, and especially because it's a common card. Adding this card gives you some block, well needed block that the Ironclad needs, because if you look at all his cards, there's not too many options for blocking. Uh, you know, not consistent blocking. Look, you even have this stone armor that's like temporary block, temporary, but Shrug is that consistent block that you need. And I find that this card is the reason why I'm winning runs, but it's not flashy. It's not the flashy card that makes you think that you're winning runs. Like Barricade, people might give more credence to than Shrug It Off. They might give more credit to, I mean, than Shrug It Off, but Shrug It Off has been saving you turn and turn again. So for that reason, Shrug definitely goes in A tier. Next up, we have Tremble. Tremble is a card that I think it's good, but I also never take it. I'm happy if one of my cards, if one of my strikes gets transformed into Tremble, but I'm also happy if one of my strikes pretty much transforms into anything. So Tremble is going to go into D tier. I think it could be good in some decks, some vulnerable decks maybe, where you do this and then you do some dismantle, maybe you do some bully, maybe you do some vulnerable drawing, maybe you do some the card that right here, dominate, that gives you strength based on vulnerable. Maybe you want to add this. I generally haven't found much reasons to add this, especially since you start out with a vulnerability card in your deck. Next up is True Grit. True Grit unupgraded is terrible. It might be D tier. Upgraded, it might be B tier. Because the value you get from a True Grit is incredible. Because you gain upgraded, I think you gain 9 block, and then you exhaust one card not at random. You exhaust a card that you choose, And because of that, you're removing a strike or a cinder you no longer need. And now your deck is so much more powerful, so much more consistent. And then you also gained block that turn, which you can transform in different ways. Either you're blocking an attack, or you're using a body slam, whatever. True Grit is great. Upgraded. Unupgraded D tier, upgraded B tier. For that reason, it's going to go into C tier right at the middle. Let's go to Bloodwall. Bloodwall is very interesting because Bloodwall is a 2-cost defense card, which again, the Ironclad I think has a problem with defense. Most of his cards don't have defense on them. He doesn't have ways to really block too well, but this card solves that for you a lot of the time. For that reason, I'm going to put it in A tier actually. Upgraded, this card becomes like a 20 block and you lose 2 HP. A lot like Bloodletting, this card is saving you a lot of HP. So you might lose 2, but then you save 10 because of playing Bloodwall. And 10 HP is huge in this game. You see that because, I mean, a Relic might only give you 6 max HP. and Bloodwall is saving you 10 on the turn that you play it. So Bloodwall is huge. Next up, okay, we finished our common cards, so this is where the common cards have ended up. I'm happy with that. I think this is good. And now we're going into our uncommons, and we start off with Bully. Bully is very situational. Early on, maybe just like an Anger, I'll take this card. Later on, I never really want to take this card. I think it's diluting things. So I think very situational. I'm putting Bully into D tier. Spite is interesting because Spite is a 0-cost card, and I think 0-cost cards people generally like 0-cost cards. This card has it's a 6 damage, so it's a lot like Anger. Anger is duplicating though, which is it's like creating another Spite, right, in your deck, which is good early because you need to do damage quickly. Spite though, you need to take damage in order to draw a card with it. This Spite enables a lot of infinites sometimes. Because of that, I think it's got to go into B tier. Without infinite, kind of the use of being into infinites and enabling infinites, I think it would go into C tier, but I think it's going to go into B tier. The fact that Spite can combo with something like, it's okay, so you Bloodlet, you Spite, you Pommel, and then now you're doing a lot more damage in one turn than you could have been able to prior. Spite might actually be A tier, but again, consistently, I think it ends up actually being more B tier. There's times where you won't take this, actually. Even though you know that it could enable infinites, sometimes you don't see yourself getting to that place. So next up is Whirlwind. Whirlwind is very good because it's doing what Breakthrough, Thunderclap do, which is deal with multiple enemies, and you need that. I think Whirlwind unupgraded definitely is B tier. Maybe upgraded might be closer to A tier. I think I'm going to leave Whirlwind at B tier, though. It might be very high B tier. Like I generally add this if I don't have a multi-attack in my deck. Sometimes by the time you get something like this, your deck is already doing something crazier. Ashen Strike is one of these very situational cards. So Ashen Strike is going to go into D tier. I recently had a very good Ashen Strike deck. I comboed Ashen Strike with Thrash, and eventually Ashen Strike got very strong, but Thrash just got very strong anyway, so then I didn't even need this card. So Ashen Strike is just gonna go into D tier, I think. Dismantle is very good early. Dismantle is very good early on. You need that damage, just like Perfected Strike, Cinder. If you see a Dismantle, you're pretty much adding it uh, very early on because you have that Bash. You can do 16 damage with that if you combo Bash with Dismantle. Now you're doing 16 with this, plus 8. You're doing 24 in one turn, which is huge in the early game. So you're happy to see Dismantle. Dismantle might be high C tier, but it is C tier. So we're going to put it there. Next up is Grapple. I think Grapple deals 7 damage. Whenever you block this turn, deal 5 damage to an enemy. This card has like the potential to do some craziness, but it most likely won't. But 7 damage is not bad, and then the possibility of it doing craziness, I'm gonna put it in very low C tier. This adds some damage to your deck, barely, like you're doing a little more damage, but then you block, you're also dealing damage. So I think Grapple is C tier. Because you could play Grapple and then you play 2 blocks, and then so you did some damage, you got something down a little further. You feel like you're getting somewhere with this card. Hemokinesis. Hemokinesis is interesting. I think I put it in. Actually, don't take this card in this game. I think by the time I get this card in my runs, usually I don't need this card anymore. But I see this as being, again, the same as Cinder and Perfected Strike. You want to take this early because you need that big damage number in order to end fights quickly. So I'm just going to put Hemo here in C tier. It might be very high C tier, but that's where Hemo is going. And in Hemo also, since it loses HP, just like Bloodletting and Blood Wall, you are also possibly triggering other HP things. Like maybe you Hemo and then you activate your Centennial Puzzle. It's that stuff is very cool. So I like Hemo being here. Pillage. Pillage is, I think it's a good card. I think because it says draw cards until you draw a non-attack card. I think I'm finding that when Pillage comes up, my deck actually has a surprising amount of skills and powers. So therefore, this card is only drawing 1 card most of the time for my runs. You might have a different experience, and so you put Pillage higher. Pillage generally isn't doing much for me. So I'm going to put it in D tier. But let me know your thoughts on Pillage, because I could definitely see Pillage being strong. But like I said, it's probably situational. Maybe your deck has that certain composition where it's just all attacks, and therefore you get to draw your whole deck with this. And maybe you want that. Maybe you draw a million spites. But Rampage. Rampage is interesting. I put Rampage again in this column where you need something that is going to deal some damage. I think it's situational. It's very situational, but I just recently had a run where my whole run was built around Rampage. So that was pretty fun, actually. It was Rampage, Headbutt, Shrugs, and stuff like this. And I beat Ascension 10 with Rampage. So it is possible. I don't know if I would have thought that a Rampage build would have been possible to beat Ascension 10, but I did it, so it is possible. And for that reason, again, I think it's solving these similar kind of issues that the cards in C tier are solving. Fight Me is interesting because I think you can operate Fight Me in a way that makes it smart to use. I think Fight Me, again, goes in this tier with these cards and what they do. It does gain you strength, and sometimes when you're letting the enemy gain strength, it's okay because they're going to die soon. Maybe it's in a multi-fight, and so you smartly use fight me in one of those situations. I think again, it's kind of very situational. You probably take this if you are early and you need something strong. I might put this here honestly. Based on my playthroughs, I haven't needed this. And when I've had this, it hasn't been useful as much as these other cards. So I think I'm gonna put it there. It costs 2. It's very expensive. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be there, but it shouldn't be expensive. But that's where it's going. Unrelenting. Unrelenting is interesting because Unrelenting is also one of these cards that's like you take when you need to do some damage early. But I find Unrelenting really loses power, loses juice later on. And I mean, I guess that's like Cinder, but Cinder is common. These are common. Now these are uncommons, and you're gonna get an uncommon, and it's just not gonna be strong later. Rampage does go down in value later if you don't have like a specific thing, but Unrelenting, I feel it just doesn't do well later in your run. Uppercut goes in B tier. Uppercut definitely wants a upgrade, so hopefully you can upgrade Uppercut in some way. You know, there's many ways that cards get upgraded in Slay the Spire too. I won't list all of them, but Uppercut's a good target for an upgrade. It gives you access to weak on Ironclad, which again, when I was talking about why Shrug and Bloodwall are probably up here is because they let you defend, they let you block, and Ironclad doesn't have too much block. This is a common block card that Ironclad has, right? A card that exhausts other cards. So you need some block. Uppercut is giving you some block in a very roundabout way. It's also working with vulnerable and that kit in the Ironclad. So Uppercut's a pretty good card. Bludgeon. Bludgeon is again one of these cards that you want to take early to do some big damage. I think Bludgeon very early as an uncommon, I'm taking it. I'm never taking Bludgeon pretty much late game. So, it's very I think it's more situational because of its high cost. I put Bludgeon in D tier. Howl from Beyond is also one of these cards. I think Howl from Beyond is actually a big noob trap, a very new player trap where it deals 16 to all enemies, and then people are saying at the start of your turn, plays from the exhaust pile. So if you exhausted Howl, you get it for free, right? You get a free play from this, and then it comes back in your deck, allowing you to deal another 16 the next turn. It's too slow. In late Ascensions, you can't afford to be this slow. I'm gonna go Howl from Beyond in D tier. Can you do something crazy with this? Yeah, you can do something crazy with every card though. But how often are you going to get something crazy out of Howl from Beyond? I think D tier amount of times. So let's go to Stomp. Stomp is an uncommon, but I feel like it's very common. I always see Stomp in my playthroughs. And I think Stomp does this. It does what these cards do, which is give you some early damage to deal with some things, deal with some elites, maybe deal with the first boss. After that, you want to almost remove one of these cards from your deck. So I'm going to play Stomp in C tier. Battle Trance. Battle Trance is an S tier card. Pretty much always take a Battle Trance. It is super rare that I don't take a Battle Trance. Battle Trance lets you draw 3 cards, but you cannot draw additional cards this turn. A lot of times you'll find out what order to play. Like you'll probably play Pummel first and then play Battle Trance, so you can see the most amount of cards and then make the best decision for the turn. Battle Trance is fine. It's a common headbutt target for me. I'll headbutt Battle Trance, that way I have again another wide array of cards to choose from. It's just overall just very solid. I'm happy to see this. Rage is interesting. Unupgraded Rage is 3 block for each attack. Upgraded is 5 block. I really like Rage, but I think Rage is I think Rage might be I think this, again, you see these early, pretty much take it. I think Rage might be C tier. I think Rage might be C tier. It's more situational. But Rage is pretty cool because Rage can allow you to not depend on these. It's gonna block enough for you not to use these. If you have a draw heavy deck, you probably run into Rage more and more often. I could see a good reason to put Rage into B tier. I like Rage, but I think realistically it goes into C tier. I think I have a bias for Rage. It's a 0 cost, but you remember, you are foregoing, whenever you add a card, you're foregoing possibly drawing something else. So Burning Pact, I think Burning Pact is an A tier card. Burning Pact is so good. It draws cards and then also exhausts one card, which is not a bad thing. It's making your deck better over time. Plus, you draw 2 on the turn that you play it, giving you greater optionality on that turn to do something that you need to do. Dominate. Dominate is interesting because it could be better than a demon form. Most times, because early you only apply 2 vulnerable, you might draw Dominate the turn after, commonly, unless you're like doing a great big vulnerable build where you're bashing, you're trembling, you're doing taunting. Now Dominate could get you 10 strength. You're thunderclapping, but that's again situational. I think Dominate might be D tier. Again, I don't think any of these cards are bad. I think all cards are all these cards are good. They're better than these two. But in terms of how common are you going to be able to get some good value out of Dominate, I don't think you're getting much value out of Dominate. Most times, it exhausts unupgraded. Upgraded, it doesn't exhaust, giving you a little more maybe options with it. But I'm gonna go. I might go D tier. I could be swayed to move it up one later. Evil Eye. Evil Eye is very interesting to me because Evil Eye works with exhaust synergies, and there are some exhaust cards in Ironclad's deck that work with Evil Eye. The bad thing about Evil Eye with Ironclad is that Evil Eye will be the target of second wind, and then you've exhausted Evil Eye, therefore you can't get the benefit of this 16 block. And that happens, but I think generally you want Evil Eye. Evil Eye is going to give you some block, and you need block. And you exhaust frequently with Burning Pact, with True Grit, with Thrash maybe, and Evil Eye is going to make sure that you do not take some damage. Forgotten Ritual. Forgotten Ritual is very interesting. I'm going to put it in B tier also. Forgotten Ritual gives you energy, but it's more situational because you have to make sure to exhaust. Whereas Bloodletting is giving you energy and you do not have to have exhaust synergies in your deck. So because, again, situational, Bloodletting is an S tier, even though it gives you energy, just like this gives you energy, and this one actually gives you more. Especially upgraded, it gives you more. But then base Bloodletting. But yeah, definitely B tier because It has to be in a situational deck. But in most situations you will be exhausting, but you might not exhaust in the turn that you draw this, and that's unfortunate. Infernal Blade, I'm gonna put into D tier. Infernal Blade is random, right? You don't know what it's gonna give you. It could end up giving you a bully. It could end up giving you hemo. Whatever it gives you, it's random. We don't know what it's gonna give you, and and I don't see myself picking this up because the other card rewards are something more useful that I know what it's gonna do when I play it, like a Burning Pact. So for that reason, Infernal Blade most of the time is never getting into my deck. Second Wind is very good because Second Wind I'm putting in A tier. I might even put it in S tier. I could be convinced to put it in S tier. I'm not sure. Maybe it should go in S tier. You know what? Second Wind's going in S tier, and the reason that Second Wind is going in S tier, even though it is, is because it's exhausting crap out of your deck. So it's exhausting these defends that are weak. It's exhausting status cards that enemies put into your deck, which happens a lot. So you're happy to draw Second Wind. And sometimes you might be against what it's going to exhaust. It might exhaust a Forgotten Ritual out of your hand, but you'll realize that the fight is going to end in 2 turns anyway. So exhausting a Forgotten Ritual isn't that bad because by the time that you draw it again, the fight is over. So Second Wind is very good. Taunt. Taunt, I think. Where do I place Taunt? Taunt is interesting because Taunt applies vulnerable and it also gives you block, which is a good combination. And I think it's a very consistent combination that you need. I'm going to put Taunt in A tier. I'm happy to see Taunt a lot of times. I'm not always adding Taunt. I mean, because the maybe by the time I get Taunt, I don't need it anymore. But early when you're building your deck, you might need a Taunt in it. And upgraded, it applies to vulnerable, and at that point, Taunt is doing some really good work for you to make sure that you can keep doing damage, not take damage. Taunt is just a really well-rounded card. Expect a Fight. Expect a Fight is a lot like Forgotten Ritual, where you need certain conditions for it to give you energy, but these enable infinites. This enables an infinite, this enables infinite, Spite enables infinites. So they got to go into B tier just because of that. Whereas without enabling infinite, they probably drop down. Flame Barrier. Flame Barrier, I'm going to put into B tier. I think it's a very good defend card when you need defend. This is a good upgrade target, I think, because Flame Barrier does save you a lot of health over the course of a run. I'm happy about Flame Barrier. I also like it's when it deals 4 damage back. There's enemies like the B guy who take themselves out sometimes because you have Flame Barrier. So, and you're gonna be happy to have Flame Barrier in a fight like that. Drum of Battle, I've never used this card. Every time I see this card, I just think it's bad. It just doesn't make much sense to me. You Drum of Battle, so you draw 2 cards, but it's only a draw 1 if you think about it, because you had to draw this card in order to use it. So it's a draw 1, 0 cost. And then at the start of your turn, exhaust the top card of your draw pile. So I'm assuming every single turn. So every single turn, do you draw 2 cards? And you exhaust? Then it might be good, actually. Or does it only draw 2 cards on the turn that you know, I've never used this. Actually, let me know what your thoughts on this. I never used this card. I need to try it out. Yeah, I'll probably try it out, but let me know. I'm gonna leave it in D tier for now. I have no idea how this even works. But I assume if it's a power, then it means that you probably draw 2 cards every single turn. And then, let me see what these other powers do. What they say. At the start of your turn, lose whatever. Vulnerable enemies. I think that it only draws 2 cards, because it would say at the start of your turn, draw 2 cards. Wouldn't it say that? So I think it only draws 2 cards on the turn you play it. And then at the start of your turn, exhaust the top card of your draw pile. This is the recurring thing, that it exhausts the top card of your draw pile. Therefore, it works synergistically with Evil Eye at that point. Because if you draw Evil Eye after this is in play, you pretty much exhaust the card every turn. Therefore, Evil Eye can block you for 16 every turn. That's my understanding of Drumroll Battle. I think I'm leaving it in D tier because of that. Feel No Pain. Feel No Pain. Okay, powers are... it's hard to rank powers because powers are so good because they scale you. And in this game, you know, these cards are doing what they need to do in the turn. Powers are doing what they need to do in the whole fight. So Feel No Pain is pretty incredible. I really like Feel No Pain. I think Feel No Pain... I'm going to put it in A tier, though. In my experience, it's been an A tier card. I think maybe in Slay the Spire 1, there was way more exhaust in the Ironclad's deck. I'm not sure on that, but I do feel that way. So Feel No Pain might have been S tier in Slay the Spire 1. In this game, it might be... yeah, like I said, it might have been S tier in Slay the Spire 1. I think it's A tier in this game. Inferno is pretty much garbage. I'm going to put it in D tier. I never take this. I maybe this fight is good against the 3-worm fight. Maybe this is good. No, this isn't even good in the ones that steal your max HP because they attack you too quickly. So this card it just sucks, I think, generally. Maybe you found a way for this card to be good. I don't think it to be good. Inflame is good. I would say Inflame is one of those cards you're happy to take. It makes you stronger. It's helping your Twin Strikes. It's helping your Thunderclaps. I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. It gives you just a little bit more strength so that you can scale the fight and win. And then eventually the enemy is going to debuff you with weak, and then you're just doing regular damage. So that's what Inflame usually ends up doing. Juggling. Juggling, I never take this card. This card is... I don't think I've ever taken this card. Add the copy of the third attack you play each turn into your hand. Because of the fact that you have to now worry about what order you're playing your attack cards, and it's just adding a level of complexity, I think that is just not necessary. And since there are so many other cards that do things, I never take juggling. Rupture. Rupture is good. Rupture is, though, very situational. Because of that, maybe it goes into D tier. Maybe it's very high D tier. I'm going to put it very low C tier. Actually, I'm going to put it in D tier for sure, actually. Because Rupture... can you have a good Rupture deck? Yes. How often are you going to have a good Rupture deck? We don't know, because Rupture upgraded, I take. Rupture unupgraded, I don't take. Pretty much. But it's better than Inflame. I would say upgraded, because you can trigger it again. So then you Bloodlet, then later you Blood Wall. In fights that last a very long time, Rupture does a very good job. So and it can be very quick to scale, which can help you do like infinite things. Rupture, I think, just upgraded itself based on me talking from all the way here to B tier. Rupture is now B tier because of that. It is quick. You need to be quick. The further receptions that you get, you want things that act very quickly. You can't wait for things. Demon form is too slow. A spoiler for demon form when it's going to come. But Rupture helps you gain strength super quick, and you can pretty much trigger it at least twice, 3 times during a fight. So let's put Rupture in B tier. Stone Armor. Stone Armor is one of these cards that I have actually liked taking. There's been times where Stone Armor isn't doing anything for me. You would be surprised how much 4 plating or 3 plating and as it goes on is worth. This actually helps. So I'm going to put it in C tier. It helps you. And upgraded, I definitely take it upgraded because now it's doing way more than a defend in that turn. Vicious. Vicious is like these cards here, it is a way to become infinite. And I think because of that, Vicious is at least B tier. I think I'm going to put it in A tier. Even though I think you need to have a certain build that to really take advantage of Vicious. Drawing cards is huge. So it's a huge power. So I think Vicious goes into A tier. Next up is Stampede, and this is the last of our uncommons. Stampede, I actually am going to put into C tier. I think people might have this higher. People might have this lower. I can be convinced to put it in D tier, but I'm going to put it in C tier. And the reason is I think this does actually a good job in most decks of doing something for the first boss. And maybe even the second boss. After that, Stampede is too slow. I think you're better off doing something, some kind of semi-infinite. And Stampede gets in the way of that because you cost 2, maybe cost 1. But it's doing something at the end of your turn. Whereas some of these things are doing things as your turn keeps going on. And that's way more valuable to me. So Stampede, let's put Stampede in C tier. Next up, we have Pax End. Pax End is one of these cards that's a gold card, and I think it's a trap. I think it's a noob trap. The fight is already over by the time you get to play this most times because you haven't been able to exhaust too many cards. So Pax End is just a bad card to take in most situations. So Pax End is going to go into D tier. Okay. Next up, Conflagration. This card, let me see. This card deals 8 damage to all enemies. It deals 2 additional damage for each other attack you've played this turn. So Conflag can be an infinite thing. I think in most situations you are not taking Conflagration, but since it's a rare, it is doing considerable amounts of damage and it's dealing damage to all enemies and you're happy about that. So I might put this, again, I'm only kind of, it's strange because this card is a rare card. So you have to be able to compare it to other rare cards, which most likely will be when you're making this comparison. And because of that, I'm going to put it in C tier. Whereas since it's a rare card, you could argue that all these cards should only be up here. But I think you've seen there's a distribution of how these cards are more likely going to affect your run is how I'm doing it. And Conflagration is not doing much. compared to these other cards. I might even put it in D tier, but it deals damage to all enemies, and then it has potentials to go crazy by using spite and other things like infinite things. So we're gonna put it in C tier. Feed, I think, is one of these cards that is potentially S tier to some people because max HP is very important. With enough max HP, you can survive a turn with no block. And even against like the bosses at the end of the game. So max HP is very important. It makes sense why you'd want a feed. Most times I'm not getting feed until way later. And because of that, I think I'm gonna put it in A tier. Because I would have liked to get the feed early and been able to really feast up. And the other thing is, on these higher ascension levels, at least for me, I'm having, it's like if I can end the fight, I'd rather end the fight. It's very important for me to end the fight and not to prolong it and take unnecessary damage to gain 3 max HP. So feed just ends up being a card that sometimes I don't take because it'll complicate my fights for me. Whereas I can just Fiend Fire and win the fight instead of worrying about 3 max HP. And my thought process is a lot of times is that Fiend Fire that I played versus the feed is going to make sure that I get that relic. It's going to make sure that I don't take more HP loss, and then I can get into the fight healthier and survive the run a lot more consistently. So I'm going to put feed in A tier because I do think it has a lot of potential depending on when you get it. What your run looks like. You may be able to feed more than I've been able to, and I do think it's a very strong card. Thrash is actually amazing. I think I'm gonna put Thrash into S tier because what Thrash is this is all the scaling that you possibly need. You can start out with a very, very terrible deck, and Thrash will win you the game. Thrash is a game-winning card if you, I guess if you get it early. If you get Thrash late, your deck is probably already doing something. But Thrash, again, Thrash almost has every single card in one. It's exhausting a card for you. It's exhausting a bad strike for you, a Molten Fist. One of these cards you took early, like Grapple, Hemo, that you don't want to play anymore. And it's adding it to this, exhausting a card. So now you can use Evil Eye or you can use Forgotten Ritual. It's letting you continue the turn. Thrash is very good. Plus, it's doing basically an inflame because it's taking that card and adding it to itself. So, very good. Thrash is broken, pretty much. Fiend Fire. Fiend Fire is very good, and Fiend Fire is definitely S tier also. Fiend Fire is S tier because Fiend Fire is letting you exhaust crappy cards out of your hand and letting you end fights quickly, right? It's transforming trash into treasure. I think that's another card in this game. But that's what Fiend Fire is doing. And it's great. And then, when you exhaust these cards out of your deck overall becomes more consistent, becomes stronger. It's like exhausting cards out of your deck is basically like channeling an inflame. Because at that point, Twin Strike is doing more damage than Strike, Sword Boomerang is doing more damage than Strike, so you just basically inflamed. So Fiend Fire is very strong. Tear Asunder is interesting. I think Tear Asunder is a card that saves you. It's like an emergency break glass kind of card where if you've taken a load of damage during the fight, you play Tear Asunder and it might save the fight for you. But I think in most runs you want to be doing well without this card because if you're relying on this card, it means you're taking too much damage during a fight. you know, because even if you're Crimson Mantling and you're able to Crimson Mantle 10 turns in a row, you're taking 10 damage, and now this is doing 50 or whatever. It's just not good. I think Tier Asunder is too situational, and therefore it is D tier. Mangle. Mangle is actually very good. I enjoy Mangle a lot. I think Mangle is going to go into B tier. Mangle is, it deals damage and then the enemy loses 10 strength, and that is very good. When you have Mangle and you pair it with Stampede, it's fun. When you have Mangle and you just play it, it feels good because you're doing damage and then you're also blocking basically by making the enemy lose strength. So I enjoy Mangle. I'm not always taking Mangle, but when I take Mangle, it's definitely a fun card. I really like it. So it's gonna go into B tier. Brand. Brand is interesting because Brand is a lot like True Grit. Let me put it next to it real quick. So Brand is a lot like True Grit, where you're exhausting a card, you're gaining a strength instead of blocking 7. So, and then when you upgrade this, you're gaining 2 strength, which is good. And I think it's way more versatile than an Inflame, so it makes sense why it's a rare card. And then you're also losing an HP, which will trigger whatever kind of HP kind of thing you have. So you could gain 3 strength from it if you have Rupture applied. So I find Brand to be good. Brand, just like True Grit, just like Cinder, is very good the first time and then gets progressively weaker. For that reason, I think I'm going to put it in B tier. I am happy to see Brand. I may not always take Brand. Cascade. Cascade is very interesting because Cascade deals with if you have an overflow of energy, but you may have so many bad cards in your deck that your hands are comprised of a lot of bad cards. Maybe you have all your strikes still in your deck later in the game by the time you find a Cascade. And so you want something that's going to help you draw this with all of those, and you're able to play this in order to do something better. I think Cascade works a lot with Ice Cream, works with other things. I think Cascade is situational. I'm gonna put it in D tier. I think it's a good card. Again, there could be good cards down here, but how often are they going to be strong for you? I think maybe this card actually is strong enough to go into very low C tier. I'm gonna put it there. Offering is D tier. You heard it here first. Offering is D tier. No, just kidding. Offering is obviously S tier. Offering lets you just do everything that you need to do in that turn. It lets you scale a lot faster and fights quicker. Yeah, you take 6 damage. It's worth taking 6 damage because you're going to be able to do a lot more in your turn. Offering definitely S tier. Primal Force is interesting. Primal Force is better the earlier you get it. Because it'll transform your crummy strikes into something better. But then after a while, Primal Force doesn't do anything and it's just a dead card in your deck, so Primal Force is going into D tier. Colossus is actually very good for me. I've been using Colossus a lot. Again, I think Colossus, I think I'm finding a trend here, right? Like the cards that are good are cards that block because Ironclad doesn't have too much block. Therefore, Colossus becomes huge. Colossus is going to go into A tier because of that. Colossus is so good. When enemy's vulnerable, you take 50% less damage. This is big. 50% less damage. Just like Diamond Item, that relic, Colossus is doing that for you. But there's no restriction on how many cards you can play. Colossus is great. And it stacks. So Colossus, if you play numerous Colossus in one turn, it will apply to this turn, apply to the next turn. That's really cool. I like that. 1-2 punch. 1-2 punch is a good card. I think you can definitely use this. I think it's okay. It's not bad. Like it's not a bad pickup. You know, I think it generally makes decks better. But you might want to pick something else over this. I think 1-2 punch might be very high C tier for me. Stoke. So Stoke exhausts your hand and then lets you draw a card. That's really helpful, right? Get rid of all this garbage that you have in your hand. Draw cards again. Try again. Very powerful. And then it combos with all these things, and I think it has potential to, you can go infinite the term that you play Stoke. Next up, Impervious. Impervious is, I remember Impervious from Slay the Spire 1. It was basically a get out of jail free card. This Impervious, I pretty much always take Impervious, but it feels a little more situational for me in my runs. Like, I really want Impervious if I have a barricade type of run. But again, like I'm saying, because Ironclad does tend to have a problem with blocking, I think Impervious is a good card to add because of that. So I'm going to put Impervious into A tier for that reason. Aggression. I find Aggression to be very good. I think Aggression is A tier, S tier, I mean. The reason why is because this card gives you more options. So it draws one every single turn, if you think about it. Put a random attack from your discard pile into your hand and upgrade it. So it basically draws a card for you, but not only does it draw a card for you, it draws a card that you use. So the first time you play Twin Strike, Aggression might bring it back, put it in your hand, and now it deals 7 twice instead of dealing 5 twice. So you just gained a buff. Aggression is very cool, very good, very useful. I love Aggression. I'm going to put it in S tier. Next up is Crimson Mantle. Crimson Mantle is a good block card. At the start of your turn, lose 1 HP and gain 8 block. This card is very useful, again, because I think the Ironclad has trouble blocking. I'm pretty much always happy to see it. I think I always take it. Crimson Mantle is A tier. Cruelty. Cruelty is very good also. Cruelty, I think, is either A or S tier. Cruelty just lets you go crazy with Vulnerable. Because Vulnerable is more situational, I'm going to put it in A tier. But Cruelty, I'm very happy. I pretty much always take Cruelty. It's a good addition to your deck. Dark Embrace is more situational than I think it was in the first game. There was a lot more exhaust in the first game. At least that's what my feeling is. So I'm going to put Dark Embrace into B tier, especially unupgraded. You know, cost 2 to draw a card when you exhaust. I'm not exhausting that frequently. And when I am, Dark Embrace can go crazy. But I think it's going to go B tier. I do take it generally, because I think most of the time when I see it, I'm strong enough to take a card that maybe doesn't have too much of a payoff. But Dark Embrace, yeah, going in B tier. Next up is Hellraiser. Hellraiser is so much fun. I think just based on fun factor, when you first play Hellraiser and you see it go off, Hellraiser might have to be... I think it's going to go into B tier here. Because I think it also, what it does is it makes you want to keep cards that are bad. So it makes you want to keep strikes in your deck even though they're bad. But Hellraiser is very good because Hellraiser works with Shuriken. It works with other cards, like when you have to play a certain amount of cards in order to draw one. I think it has very good synergies. It works with kunai, shuriken, like I said. So I think because of that, it has synergies. You can get it to cost 1. I think Hellraiser is going to go into A tier, and then it's also extremely fun. So if your deck can afford to take Hellraiser, I think you take Hellraiser. Juggernaut. Juggernaut is extremely situational. Juggernaut's going to go into D tier. You need to have some sort of like infinite block for Juggernaut to be worth it, I think. Because it's too slow and it's costing way too much in order to just do 5 damage. You have things that are going to do a lot more damage for you, a lot faster. You know, if you play Cruelty, just play Cruelty and then play another attack card, and you're going to do like 20 damage versus dealing 5 off of a block. So, Juggernaut, it's good when it's good, but generally it's bad. Pyre, I think Pyre is like a good card. It's also slow, but I think generally you want to take Pyre, so I'm gonna put it in B tier. I think this is a very beginner friendly card that gives you energy, and people like energy. I mean, energy is very good. So as you can see from Bloodletting, I think it's slow though. You know, it costs 2. It only works next turn. So Pyre going to B tier. Unmovable. I actually really like Unmovable. I think Unmovable might be S tier. Unmovable might be S tier because Unmovable, you can get its cost down to 1, and then it's gonna help you block every turn that the fight goes on. You know, your shrugs are gonna be worth double. It's gonna be worth 22 now. So, and that helps you a ton. So Unmovable helps you win runs, I feel. And because of that, Unmovable is going to be an S tier. Next up is Barricade. Barricade, also very situational, I feel. You need to be able to generate a lot of block for Barricade to be worth it. You need to have maybe relics that are giving you block. You need to hope that you draw Barricade before those relics take effect, because you're going to need to block consistently. Barricade feels good though when you get it going. It feels very good. It can win stuff. Barricade is definitely good. It might be top of D tier, but again, it's very situational. I'm gonna put it there. You can get its cost down to 2. If it's upgraded Barricade, it might go C tier, but unupgraded Barricade, I think, goes into D tier. Demon Form. Demon Form, I'm gonna put in. It's very slow. I think I'm gonna put it in C tier. It's good. Demon Form can win you runs. Like if you're a new player, Demon Form you probably need. Might be B. Demon Form, I'll put it in B tier. Because I think Demon Form has the potential to win you fights that you weren't supposed to win. As long as you can survive, you can get it online and you can win. So I think Demon Form goes there. But I prefer taking things that move a lot quicker, that can quickly get you to win. Demon Form costs 3, gaining you 2 strength, or it's gaining you 3. Again, a turn, very slow. Whereas Rupture, you could have triggered this 5 times in 1 turn by the time you gain the strength from Demon Form. So, that's where Demon Form is going. Okay, let's start with, I guess, okay, these are the ancient cards. We have Corruption. I haven't actually taken Corruption yet. You know, like I said, I've played all through 10 Ascensions of the Ironclad, but haven't gotten a chance to use Corruption. I don't think it made sense for the run where I saw it. I did see it, but I did not take it. I think another ancient bonus was better at the time for me to take than Corruption. Let's see, skills cost 0 whenever you play a skill exhausted. So it works the same as the Corruption from the first game. I think the Corruption from the first game, was it worth 3? It might have been worth 3. But this card I could see definitely being good. But by the time I saw it, I was already in Act 3. Therefore, my run couldn't be like I did have an opportunity to change my deck composition to favor corruption, but it didn't feel good to do so at that time. So I didn't take it. So I think this is a card. I mean, this is a good card. I definitely think it's a good card. I think because I didn't take it, I mean, this card is a good card, right? Like if it's just like I've been kind of comparing everything based on when you see it. And when you see this, your deck might not want it. Like you might there could be other ancient bonuses that are better than this, but this card as a card is strong, right? And that's why it's an ancient bonus. So I'm gonna put an A tier. You know, it's an ancient bonus, and that it makes sense why it is one because it's that strong. Just like break. Break is incredibly strong as well. And so I'm gonna put break into A tier also. Break essentially lets you, you know, these could both be A tier, these can both be S tier, but because there are times where I don't take these because I see other ancient bonuses, I'm gonna put them here. But these are game winning, right? Potentially. This is a lot of damage. This is a lot of damage. These both probably deserve to be here. Yeah, let's go with that. They both deserve to be there because they are game-breakingly good cards. And the ancient bonuses tend to be that way. They can be that way. So let's put them there, and that's it. That's the end of the tier list. The only other card that was here is like there's a duplicate of Ashen Strike here for some reason. But yeah, that's the end of the Ironclad tier list. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.